Do you suppose a place can have a soul, just as the same as a man? Is it possible that a spiritual essence lingers in its confines, sewn into the flesh of its plaster and stone, the bones of its beams? These may have been the places that we call haunted. Or maybe there are more of them than we perceived. Maybe some were just quieter than the others. Maybe some were restless. Maybe they stirred and spun the echoes of our lives, a resident identity of ages. Maybe. I had always been a skeptic, but my time aboard the Odyssey, drifting nowhere and bound for nothing, turned my doubt into wonder for many fantastic and frightening things. I could very well blame the change of heart on my growing delirium. I'd been slowly losing my connection with reality for some time by then. After all, that would have explained my paranoia and superstition, but I couldn't reason away reality of what I heard. A certain term has always held popularity among the circles of paranormal investigators, cryptozoologists, alien conspiracy theorists, and a great number of other infamous nut jobs. EVP, or electric voice phenomenon, the occurrence of human voices in the white noise of an audio recording. Audio engineers were well aware of the effect, but tied no supernatural origins to it. Psychologists said that the human brain has a need for order, attempting to find any pattern it can in chaos. And it's true. It's the reason why we see shapes in clouds, why we see the faces of religious icons in burnt toast. Subjective interpretation of EVP is no exception. We see what we want to see, hear what we want to hear. But I know what I heard. Amid the occasional pops and cracks within the windy hiss of the static, I heard a single, distant word whispered from the depths of a time long past. It was the last echo of our old world and my old home. Last spark of whatever soul it may have once had. It spoke directly to me. And it spoke in such familiar, subtle mannerisms. My son. My little boy. I was half asleep, nodding off after my 14th hour of monitoring the comm channel. But I heard him. It took me a moment to register the voice and realize it wasn't just a waking dream. I jolted awake, calling his name into the static void. Calling turned into screaming, begging, and pleading for a response, but to no avail. I fell to my knees in a fit of tears and despair, sobbing to the point of lightheadedness. One simple word. The most beautiful word I've ever heard. The only word I had heard spoken by another in nearly a year. And it was gone as quickly as I recognized it. I felt betrayed. I felt abandoned. And lonelier than I had ever felt in all the hours, days, and months alone on that godforsaken ship. The depression killed me. It left me bedridden for weeks. I confined myself to my living quarters, veiled in total darkness. I refused to leave my bed for anything more than just to use the restroom and the occasional handful of water from the bathroom faucet. The light left my eyes while the days passed by in dragging, timeless blur. Then came the voices. My wife, my child, James, and a plethora of other, both familiar and alien. They spoke to me from the corners of the room, from beyond the portal door, from the depths of space, from back on Earth, and all from within my own mind. They whispered, pleaded, nagged, and attacked me to fill the hours of silence.
Daddy. Daddy.
My son beckoned again.
Come home. Come home to us.
It sounded just as real as it did over the comlink. Perhaps more so.
Honey, you're late for dinner again.
My wife scolded.
When are you coming home? You know how I hate it, and you make me worry like this.
I missed her laying next to me at night, and I thought of her every time I turned over to the colder, drier side of that queen-size bed.
So,
James whispered from his makeshift coffin, drifting into the infinite.
I don't have much family back home. Do you think anyone will be waiting for me?
Ask James. I responded out loud. I remember giving him a friendly clap on the shoulder back then, the reassuring gesture of an older brother. I'm sure you're dearly missed. I miss you. I spoke to no one, only mumbled aloud into the empty room. They haunted me ceaselessly, stabbed at my mind with wailing sobs, shrill cries, and screams, and sometimes the growling, rumbling, and gurgling of inhuman things. I couldn't get a single moment's rest, and the sickness grew worse with every spoken word. Were it not for the horrific taunts of the voices, I may have surrendered and resigned myself to death. I may have let the sickness take me, but I refused to let this madness win. My anger compelled me to survive, whatever the cost. Weak and dizzy from the fever, I crawled for the portal door as quickly as my weakened muscles could manage, as though fleeing from the dense, suffocating smoke of a burning building. I was certain that my salvation lay just beyond that threshold. I was wrong.